Today is the day before Thanksgiving, so I was very curious what your plans were. You're obviously taking a little break on your tour.
Only a little one. Yeah. I'm in Wimberley, Texas, which is a lovely little town near Austin. My brother-in-law just retired from the Air Force. He was an F-16 pilot. He's going to be flying for American Airlines. So we all came down here for his retirement party. I was honored to sing the national anthem. And now we're celebrating with his family and my family Thanksgiving tomorrow and through the rest of the week. And then I'll be back home in Santa Barbara on the weekend.
Oh, that's lovely. So I wondered then, I was thinking a lot about this when you grew up in such a famous household. Jack Cassidy, Shirley Jones, I mean, all of our listeners and all of our viewers know all of this. What was Thanksgiving like then? Do you have any fond recollections or famous faces around the table other than your own?
Uh, yes, my mom and dad and David. Uh, no, interestingly, and maybe in a good way, Thanksgiving was not like a Hollywood affair at my house. It was very much family focused. My dad would often cook. He made a great turkey. Um, my mother would make sweet potatoes and this goofy dessert that came from Western Pennsylvania called Apple Betty. And if there's any Apple Betty fans out there, I apologize. But it was basically like Wonder Bread with sugar and apples in it.
Nice.
Um, but it was our family, and it remains our family. One of the things I talk a lot about, some even in my show a bit. My mother is one of the most grounded people you'll ever meet. She's 91 years old now. She looks younger than both of us, crazy, and in great health. But she was always sort of in the business, but not of the business, if you know what I mean. She loved her work and she loved the creative process, but all of the Hollywood glitz stuff, not her thing. And it's not my thing. So I think maybe I inherited that from her.
Is that one of the reasons you shifted gears and did more of a behind the camera
1000%.
career?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a crazy career. It's been amazing. But it's definitely different. I did concerts for the first 3 years of my career from like 18 to 21. And at 21, I was at the Houston Astrodome playing for 55,000 people. And I said goodnight, not knowing it would be my last concert in 40 years, but it was because I was able to, fortunately, transition to the part of the business that it really is my passion. I'm a writer. I'm a writer producer, and I've created a lot of TV shows, and I've worked on a wide variety of shows. Most recently, a medical show called New Amsterdam that I wrote and produced, and I stopped doing concerts. I stopped acting, and I think a big part of it was I kind of longed to have something close to a normal life, whatever that is, and I found one. And I found one because as a writer, I could be home more. I have a lot of kids. I could be around my kids, and I could have something closer to a traditional job. Whereas if you're the centerpiece, if you're the guy in the white hot light, it's really hard to have any kind of normalcy, and I don't think it's all that healthy. But now, in my early 60s, I can go out on the road and do it in a way that feels authentic to the life I've had because a large percentage of my show beyond the music is storytelling, and that's been my job.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the storytelling. I had made a note to myself to ask you this question. I was going through this deep dive before getting an opportunity to talk to you, and I started listening to you tell a story about Carrie Fisher. And I'm imagining that some of these are stories you're telling on the road. And you were talking about being in a limo. And I got called away to go to set or do something at the station. And I came back and I couldn't find the interview. So I never heard the end. And we left off, you were at the limo from the
Yeah.
Grammys. You guys were childhood friends
You were
because you had
waiting
the
for the
same.
salacious part, weren't you?
Yes! It was getting. You used the word frisky, which was such a fantastic 70s way to say things. And I just didn't hear the end of the story.
Well, it's not that salacious. Carrie
Okay.
was a friend and a neighbor. Carrie was a few years older than I was, but we were pals, and Carrie was really smart and really funny. And, she had a similar backstory to mine. Her mom was Debbie Reynolds, big movie musical star, and my mom was Shirley Jones. And, we sort of had that kind of shared experience in common. And then crazily, insanely, the year that I showed up on the Hardy Boys, I had the number one record in the country. She'd gone off to London and she'd sent me postcards from London talking about this terrible movie she was doing with this ridiculous hairdo and these stupid robots. And of course, the movie ended up being Star Wars. And this movie opens, the biggest movie ever. I have the biggest record in the country. I'm on a hit TV show. And the Grammys invite me to open the show. Basically, you get to be Beyonce this week, right? And I'm like, I'm opening the Grammys. So I called Carrie. I said, Carrie, you want to be my date? Sure. So on the limousine ride there, we had never done anything salacious. We got a little more friendly than we had been as neighbors. And I get to the show, and yeah, I need to clean up a little bit and go out there and do it. And afterwards, we went out to dinner, and we were at a table with Ringo Starr and Alice Cooper and Patti Smith, and it was a big night. And she and I remained friends throughout her life. But we often talked about that night, and I have a lot of interesting stories like that. Yeah,
And we're
I
going to
do
get to
tell
see
some of them in my show.
some of them you do share in your show. And I think I mentioned, I don't remember if I had already started recording when I mentioned our friends over at the Pop Culture Preservation Society, but they were raving about how when the way you approach your audience, a lot of women within a few years of my age, and I'm sure you have a lot of newer fans too, and some people that are the dates of the people who but you really get in the moment we're in, which is we're remembering. We're not trying to go back. We're not trying to relive it. We're just wanting to bond over these shared memories.
Yeah, for me too. It's all of that and more in that, well, my first line in the show is, "This is a love story." And again, because my primary job is storyteller, this is a scripted show. I mean, I veer off it all over the place, and it doesn't sound like I'm reciting dialogue, I hope, but it is crafted as a continuous narrative with a beginning, middle, and end. And the songs, many of which were hits back in the day, and some new songs and songs of my family, are all interwoven to support the story. And the story, the love story, is not just the connection I might have had with an audience back in the day when I was a very young guy and the audience was mostly younger, but the rediscovery and reconnection with that audience and with a greater audience, because there's a lot of people that come to my show now in their 20s, which is crazy and was surprising to me. But the Hardy Boys has been on television now for like 5 years on Peacock. So a lot of people have discovered the show, and then they do a deep dive via social media and internet on me, and they find out I was involved with so many television shows as a writer behind the scenes or as a producer, like New Amsterdam most recently. And they're interested. They're like, this is an interesting story in theory that this guy might tell us. And then my favorite audience member are the guys who might have wanted to beat me up in high school, who get dragged along by their wives or girlfriends, and they end up having a great time because the show's funny. It's really funny. And it's emotional, but the bigger purpose-driven reason I'm doing this, it's called The Road to Us, not The Road to Me, because I think it's so important now, especially in 2025 when we're all living on screens, post-pandemic, where we're all isolated, to get out and get into a shared space, be it a theater, a movie theater, concert hall, church, whatever you want to go out there and be with people and have an experience together. It will immediately melt whatever division there is. I don't care about your politics or whatever your religion is. Great. Come on down. Everybody have this shared experience and enjoy our shared humanity and go away happy and have your soul fulfilled. That's what the show is.
And I'm trying to, wrap my brain around it. Obviously, what you just said about how it is a shared experience is kind of what I was alluding to. But when you get that many people in a room, and some of those people have seen the Hardy Boys when it was on, and we had to wait a week or 2 weeks, we had to mix in some Nancy Drew. We had to, we were right there waiting. We couldn't VCR it. You couldn't cancel plans if your parents said you couldn't go out. And now it's on. It's bingeable, and you have new audiences. Have you gone back and watched it recently?
No,
No,
I haven't seen it since it was on.
I'm, I
I
haven't
don't
either.
think
And
my
I,
kids have seen it either.
what have your kids seen that you've done, and what was the reaction? I know they range in ages.
Yeah, I have a bunch of kids, and one of the funniest part, it's a funny part of the show too, because I tell this story. All of my kids, I have 7 kids, all right? All of them were born after I played the astronome, after I stopped doing concerts. So they grew up with a guy who went to an office at a studio writing, which was still a weird thing even to them. Like, what do you mean? TV shows are written? Don't those actors just make it all up themselves? Well, no. But one day, imagine your dad, like one day just shows up at the kitchen table and says, "Hey kids, I think I'm going to be a rock star." Right? Dad is clearly having a nervous breakdown. And then to come and watch their dad, not at 20, but at 60, perform, sing, tell stories in front of, yeah, many screaming women still,
Sure.
and some screaming men. Uh, it was a lot for them to absorb, and it still kind of is. And they come and they like are kind of mystified. The best way my wife put it to our youngest daughter, who's 14, she walked in her room one day, and our youngest daughter has a poster of Harry Styles on the wall. And my wife pointed at the poster and said, "You know, that was your dad." And she's like, "What? That guy in his robe in the kitchen was that guy?" Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that part has been fun for me, and it's been weird, I think, for them. It's all weird, though. My life is weird, but it's great. It's really great. I'm really grateful.
I mean, your kids' grandparents. I mean, Shirley Jones.
Yeah,
Have your kids seen the Partridge Family?
I don't think so.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I one of the shows I created for my brother David and my brother Patrick. It was called Ruby and the Rockets. It was on briefly on ABC Family, I think in like 2009. And it was kind of based on like Hall and Oates, like an 80s brother duo or Everly Brothers back in the day, like who ended up not liking each other and going their separate ways. And then one day, the daughter of one of them shows up at the other one's house and says, "I think you're my uncle," which brings the brothers back together. And it was a half-hour comedy. Austin Butler played my brother Patrick's son, and that was one of his first jobs. Why am I bringing this up? Because, oh, my mom guested on the show. Anyway, art imitating life, imitating art, like being able to take our weird lives, our unique lives, and work them into story and understand them better, which is my process. I mean, I'm certain I became a writer because I wanted to like do self-therapy. I wanted to figure out what this all meant. How do I process it? You take characters, Norman Lear, the great producer of television, Norman Lear always said that every show's about family. And it's really true. You may be disguising. I mean, Star Trek's about family. They're not related by blood, but that's a family, right? All my shows, going back to American Gothic, which was the first one, which was dark as dark could be, was about family. Scary family, messed up family, but family, you know.
What are you working on right now? What as far as
I'm
writing
writing a
goes?
pilot, literally in my hotel room every day before I go to sound check, before I do the show at night. I'm writing a pilot I sold to NBC. It's due next week, so I'll be writing on Thanksgiving. I'm in Act 6, so I'm close to the finish line. Um, I've been blessed. I've written probably 50 pilots, and I've probably had 15 go to television series over the
That's
years. And I
probably
really,
considered a high percentage, right?
yeah, I mean, it's like threading a needle. There's a network has probably pitched 500 shows, ideas for shows a year, and of the 500, they may buy 50 scripts. Of the 50 scripts, they might shoot 10. Of the 10, they might pick up 3 to series.
Wow.
So you're not really in the business of getting shows in the air if you're a successful writer. If you're getting pilots, if you're getting paid to write a pilot, paid to get a horse in the race, you're doing great. And I've been very fortunate.
Because you're a proven entity now, they're like, okay, look, we already want you to know we're very interested. we're going to put our money behind it. You're going to go do this, and if the
And
time's
hope it
right
works
and
out. And there's so many
everything,
variables that have nothing
yeah.
to do with the script or the climate. It's what's working. Like, for years, like nobody wanted to see anything with a horse in it or a Western. And then Taylor Sheridan came along, Yellowstone came along, and suddenly everybody wants their show about a ranch. It's just cyclical. And people often come up to me, hey, I've got a great idea for a show. And I'm like, I'm sure you do. But here's the dirty little secret. They're not really buying ideas. They're buying auspices. They're buying the people that can make them because they're investing a lot of money in you. And they don't want to see you burn through their money without delivering something that's at least half good or something they think they can sell.
Interesting. And timing, like you mentioned, is really important. I think you had said that you started the idea of even touring. The timing was not ideal. COVID hit right after you went out and started doing some shows
Worst
and thought,
possible timing.
I mean,
Hey, I
timing is
have an
everything.
idea. I
And
think
that
I'll
was just going to be for friends and family, right? When you first went out and did a performance?
Yeah, I started doing this again. I did a little, we live in the wine country of Santa Barbara, and I did a little like, let's see if anyone will come show at a little winery that only had like room for 100 people. And I didn't know if I'd like it either, by the way. I mean, I didn't know if anybody would care. I didn't know if I'd like it. And it was great. And we set it up to do one night. We ended up doing 4 nights, and people flew in from like Australia. They came in from all over the world. It was nuts. So then an agent called me. I didn't even have an agent then. And they, hey, you want to do this for real? Well, maybe. So we booked a tour. And just as the tour started, I played Vegas. I played like for 2,500 people at some showroom in Vegas. And it was like Valentine's Day of 2020. A week later, the world shut down. So I still went out and did some of those shows, but they got moved a lot, as every show did, and people were there in masks, and it was weird. So this matters, this connection thing, and it mattered to me then, and it became more important to me as I started doing the show sporadically. And this was the first version. It was called "The Magic of a Midnight Sky." It's a line from a song called "Hey Deanie" that Eric Carmen wrote, and I talk about Eric in my show too. He wrote that after seeing Natalie Wood in a movie called Splendor in the Grass at a drive-in movie theater. People had come together to have this shared experience of this movie, and he fell in love with Natalie, and Natalie's character's name was Deanie. So he wrote a song about it. And I knew Natalie in real life, and she was as lovely and charming and beautiful and talented as everybody has said. So I get why he wrote the song about her, so I can sing that song with some authority.
You mentioned your winery about My First Crush wine.
Yeah.
And you're donating proceeds to Children's Hunger to fight hunger.
No kid
And
hungry.
yeah, so that's amazing, and it's just the perfect fit because a lot of your audience enjoys a glass of wine from time to time. I'm sure you've heard that.
I've heard that. This was a natural. This was really a lemonade out of lemon story because as the pandemic was kicking in, as I say, we live in the wine country of Santa Barbara, and the Santa Barbara wine country, they're famous mostly for their Pinot Noir, which is extraordinary. It's a perfect little climate to make that grape sing. And one of our dearest friends, one of the best winemakers in the valley, called me. He said, "Hey, I've got 500 cases of Pinot Noir that was set to go to some very high-end restaurants, including Wolfgang Puck's." And he said the restaurants are all closed because of the pandemic. And I don't know what to do with this wine. You know anybody that might want to buy it? And I said, well, no, but it's a lot of wine, and I know you're a great winemaker. And meanwhile, restaurants are closing in our community, and the farmers who grow the grapes are hurting. And I had already had a relationship with No Kid Hungry, which is a great organization, feeds kids all over the world. And I knew that prior to the pandemic, 1 in 4 kids was going to bed hungry, and now it's like, oh no, it was 1 in 7 kids was going to bed hungry, and with pandemic, it's 1 in 4 because so many kids got their only meal at school, and the schools are closed now, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm a producer. What can I do? Hey, I have an idea. I had just trademarked My First Crush for a Las Vegas show that I was going to produce, and the show went away because Caesar's Palace or whatever said we're not doing shows like that now. Nobody's coming. They're all home. I said, well, I've got this name, My First Crush. It's actually a great name for a wine. Why don't you let me label your wine? I'll try and sell it off my, Facebook page or social media in general, and we'll give proceeds to No Kid Hungry. So we'll help the kids, we'll help the farmers, we'll help the wine makers, have some fun project during pandemic. And it kind of took off. And now there's a whole site dedicated. You can go to myfirstcrush.com, join the wine club, and we do these events. You come out to Santa Barbara, we'll have a glass of wine together. Or if you can't get to Santa Barbara, we'll do it virtually. And it's really a beautiful sideline. And it's completely unprofitable, but it's really fun.
It's
This is the biggest tour I've ever done in my life because when I was a kid, I couldn't tour extensively because I was doing the Hardy Boys. I was recording at night. So I'd go out for like a weekend here or there, a couple weeks in the summer. But this is a 6-month tour where I'm going out 2 weeks a month every month. The next leg, coming to Ponte Vedra, Florida. Go to ShaunCassidy.com. You can get tickets, I think, still some. And bring your friends and bring your kids and drag your husbands, ladies. Those husbands that don't want to come are my favorite audience member. Those guys who wanted to beat me up in high school, come. I promise you'll have fun. You'll laugh a lot. The show's really funny, I think. They tell me it's funny. And you'll be with people that are as much or often as entertaining as I am. So
I kind of wanted to see the white satin outfit from the Grammys.
you never know. There's still time. I'm on the road for another 3 months, 3.5 months.
Where is that outfit?
Holidays.
It's got to be tiny. Those pants had to be tiny.
They were tiny then, and I'd wear like 3 of them because I'd take one off and then have another pair on underneath. It was made out of some sort of material like designed for NASA or something. I don't know where it came from, but it was fun.
Well, you're so generous with your time and you're so thoughtful with your answers. And so I was very much looking forward to today, and you did not disappoint. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And safe travels. Happy holidays.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. And Christine and I, my podcast partner, will see you on December 13th. And for everybody watching on News for Jax, you can catch Shaun Cassidy at the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall. Tickets, a few, are still available online.